Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Olga Mushakievska. I work for ISSUP's National Chapters Coordinator. And thank you for your interest in today's webinar, Tobacco Smoking Addiction from Prevention to Treatment. This is the third and final webinar in our tobacco webinar series that was scheduled intentionally today on May 31st, World No Tobacco Day. You can find the records of the first two webinars on the ISSUP website at www.issup.net and on our YouTube channel. This webinar was organized in collaboration with the ISSUP Pakistan National Chapter, and I'm happy to announce that Saima Asghar, the Director of ISSUP Pakistan National Chapter, is one of our panelists. ISSUP, the International Society of Substance Use Professionals, is a membership organization with then 18,000 members globally. ISSUP supports the building of the workforce all over the world through its national chapters and events. We invite all of you to become ISSUP members if you are not already, so you can become a part of our group. You can sign up for free on our website. Today, we will talk about prevention and treatment of tobacco addiction. Do successful evidence-based intervention help to reduce or delay initiation of smoking? Is it possible to quit smoking if the person has smoked for years? How would you know that you have a tobacco addiction? Our international well-known speakers will answer these questions and many others that you can send us in the chat during the presentation. You can find the chat in the GoToWebinar control panel. Now it is my honor to introduce our first panelist, Dr. Beatrice Carlini, PhD, Master of Public Health. Dr. Carlini is a research scientist at the University of Washington's Addictions, Drug and Alcohol Institute, and affiliate associate professor at the School of Public Health, Health Service Department. In 2019, she was named director of the Tobacco Studies program in the University of Washington School of Public Health, where she also teaches tobacco-related health disparities and social justice. Dr. Carlini, thank you for joining us today. We greatly appreciate your participation in today's webinar. I hand over to you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's an honor to be here sharing a little bit we know about the issue of quitting tobacco. So I'm going to bring the experience of United States. I'm originally from Brazil myself, but I thought, you know, living in the United States for 20 years, it was the invitation that I share what is done there in terms of recommendations. What are the best practices? Before I start, I just want to say I have no conflict of interest in this matter. And I also want to point out that every World No Tobacco Day each year, it's chosen a topic to talk about it. And in this one is exactly about quitting, specifically about quitting. And that's a little bit of what I'm going to bring up today. So I divided my presentation in 4 buckets or topics, and I'm going to start with a very quick background, and keeping in mind that I'm really centering on the United States experience, which might be applicable or not in other countries. So in terms of background, probably nothing new for most of us to just one more time look at the incredibly mortality toll that smoking has. So this is data from the United States, where about 500,000 people die prematurely with diseases that not necessarily people associate immediately to smoking, but that are in fact. Can you see my screen? Sorry about that.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not seeing it. Okay. Okay, that are then, you know, related automatically with tobacco, like lung cancer, but heart disease and respiratory conditions are also a very important cause of mortality. For this reason, it's been since the 60s and particularly the 70s on, so more than half a century of research in the United States, very solid research evidence, and the publication of constantly renewing guidelines of what are the best practices in terms of treating tobacco use independence. The 2008 has been partially updated here and there, but it still holds true for most of the things. So I'm referring to it, and I can update as people have questions. So the first thing is to really consider that when we look at tobacco dependence, it's very clear from the research that is a chronic relapsing condition. People try over and over to quit and make several quit attempts until they successfully quit, or maybe never quit and end up being victim of the fatalities that are associated with tobacco use. And why treat? A lot of people try to just quit by themselves, but we know that effective treatments increase the chance of success of compared to quit alone tremendously, and is the best practice if you are a clinician. And I'm gonna then detail this, but the gold standard treatment, according to the research made in the United States, is that counseling plus medication is the best combination you can have to increase to your patient the chances of successfully quitting. Using both counseling medication together, and there is a dose-response relationship. More you do it, more counseling you do, more effective medications or doses you take according to your situation, more likely you are to quit. It's hard to quit even with treatment, but more likely you are. Okay, so let's look a little bit about what are the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, approved drugs to treat tobacco dependence in the United States right now, and probably around the world this is true as well. So before showing the medication, I just want to, stand back a little bit and bring something that a lot of times we are questioned by clinicians. The addictive ingredient of tobacco is nicotine. People get addicted to smoking because of the nicotine that goes in your brain. It's extremely addictive. It's one of the most powerful addictive components. However, the deaths that I just showed, the 500,000 deaths per year, are not related to what people are addicted to nicotine. It's related to many other chemicals that are either in a tobacco originally or was added by the industries to make the tobacco and the nicotine even more addicted than already it is. So because of that, if you look at the FDA approved medicines for quitting, they are basically separating out what is the nicotine. So admitting that people will take a longer time to get rid of nicotine and need it to treat their tobacco dependence. So you are getting rid of the habit of use cigarettes and smoking. That is what ultimately is going to kill you. And while you slowly wear off your nicotine and handle your dependence. So nicotine is 5 out of 7 are of FDA approved medicines are nicotine based. And they go from patches, gum, lozenges, spray, and nicotine inhalers. There are a lot, and I can ask more on that. I can answer more questions if you have. The other 2 medicines are pill medicines, varenicline and bupropion. Varenicline, which is in the United States Chantix, it's the most effective, but is expensive and is not for everybody because of some side effects. But it just basically varenicline attaches to the same parts of the brain that nicotine does and reduces the urge to smoke. You start using varenicline before you quit smoking. And bupropion studies, randomized trials show that reduces the crave for tobacco, but honestly, to this day, it's not very clear what is the mechanism. It's also antidepressant, but is not related to being antidepressant because not all antidepressants reduce the craving for tobacco. So these are the medications currently available. More recently, in 2008, guidelines say that, but it's very emphasized now that combining medications is very important for people that are having extremely hard time to quitting. So you can use the nicotine patch that replaces your nicotine all the way long, but when you have a strong urge, you can maybe have a gum or lozenge. So these things are becoming more and more common to recommend, although sometimes in the original approval that wasn't the case. So it's really going thinking that even if you put a lot of nicotine in your body, you are still not having not even remotely the same risk as smoking. What about counseling? What kind of counseling you do for smoking? It's like, it's not really, you know, psychotherapy in the way we would maybe, you know, deal with family problems or something. It's very practical. And the evidence is you have to help people to do what is obvious, but is not obvious. You have to plan. So there are like 6 areas here, and I'm going to try to go quick to each of them. So first is don't just go and quit. Plan your quit. Plan a day, tell your family, your loved ones, clean your house of all the things that reminds you of cigarettes, your ashtrays, and just kind of smoke-proof your home. Just get rid of your cigarettes, and then decide the day that you're gonna do it. This is proven to be better than just quitting. Prepare for cravings. Anticipate that you're gonna really feel like you want to smoke again. You're gonna feel it. Maybe not in the first and the second day. The first day you get nervous or irritated or stressed, you may have a strong craving. So have alternatives. You're gonna exercise, you're gonna chew some gum, you're gonna do something. It just don't imagine you're not gonna have. Think about alternatives. I'm gonna drink a lot of water. Things that of course won't replace it, but will help you. Manage your withdrawal symptom. It's gonna happen too. So already think ahead, and this is what the counselor is gonna help you to do all the way from preparing the first day you're gonna quit to like call your counselor. I'm having horrible headache, I'm feeling extremely hungry, and I'm afraid I'm gonna, you know, put weight on. So what can you do? You know, I'm aggressive, I'm irritated, my family cannot stand me anymore. Talk to your counselor, try to find ways to handle this. Recognize signs of depression and try to get help for depression if this comes. It's very common as well. So as much you plan ahead, you are better off of getting the support you need. The other thing too is reducing your stress. A lot of times your craving comes from your stress. Besides, you know, preparing by chewing gum or drinking water, what else can you do to reduce your craving? It's reducing your stress through exercise, meditation, prayer, hanging out with non-smokers, just really basically trying to find ways that the less stressed you are, less likely you are to relapse. And the other thing is avoid second-hand smoke. Treat yourself as you are an ex-smoker, which you are soon to be, you know, and imagine you talking to your patients, and go to places where other people are not using tobacco. The more you do that, the more you will not have the urge to smoke. You're not going to have the old signs that brings you back to smoking. So these are the evidence in terms of practical counseling that combined with medication gives, according to US guidelines, the best chances of people quitting. Are there new things around? Yeah, there are new things around. There are a lot of tentatives to do things in different ways, and some of them are successful, but this is still where the evidence is the strongest. To finalize, the other question people may have is, okay, that's wonderful. Where you get this counseling? Where do I find it? Where, you know, it's like, are people going to go to the doctor twice a week to talk about their tobacco use? Usually it doesn't happen that way. People don't. They tend not to go. They may go for their heroin addiction. They don't go for tobacco. So where do you offer this? Where people can get it? Going to show a little bit what are the resources more common in the United States. So technology has been used a lot. So you can really try to get counseling to, there is a number in the United States, 1-800-QUIT NOW. And this is going to route to the resources to your state, and you're going to get some coaching or counseling through the phone and through the web through this. You can use chat, you can use text, you can use an app. So, and you also can go to your healthcare provider, and you are very likely to be eligible for a group if that's what you prefer. The idea behind it is offer as many channels as possible, so you have a very low threshold for people to engage in treatment and support. In these phone calls, the 1-800-QUIT NOW, a lot of times you get a free nicotine replacement therapy, depending on your situation. It's sent to your own home, and the counselor is going to work with you with side effects as well. So this is where a situation is there, at least that's what is desirable. I'm not saying this works that way everywhere, in every state, all the time, but these are the guidelines that are currently in place. I'm not very familiar with the resources in the very diverse countries we have in this webinar, but in looking at what WHO offers, for instance, we can see that, and this is supported in different languages, that prepare for today, the World No Tobacco Day. They have a list of mobile applications, text message support, something that I haven't seen in the United States, Florence, digital health worker. If you give some basic information, artificial intelligence, apparently several languages. I didn't, register myself there, but in English, there is an artificial intelligence support for quitting smoking. And of course, toll-free quit lines like the ones I described in United States. So there is a lot of things out there. I believe it's similar. The important thing is if a person is smoking, is having a very hard time in quitting, there is a way to make things less painful and increase the chances of success. The story is there is no reason to ever give up on quitting smoking is the most, the #1 preventable cause of death in the United States. I know is not everywhere in the world, but probably in many places as well. In the United States, we have a COVID mortality rate every year just from tobacco. So that would be my little contribution. Thanks so much for listening. And I think, Olivia, you're going to get me out of here, right?
Thank you, Dr. Carlini, for your fascinating input. And I would like to echo your words to repeat that tobaccotization treatment exists and that it is possible to quit tobacco smoking. And according to Best Practices 2014, encouraging and helping tobacco users to quit is the quickest approach to reduce tobacco-related disease, death, and healthcare costs. So, thank you.
Thank you.
And now I would like to introduce our special next speaker, Jeff Lee from UK, Senior Consultant, International Society of Substance Use Professionals, former Executive Director of ISSUP, and mentor international and consultant to UNODC and WHO. Jeff, thank you so much for giving your time. I hand over to you.
Thank you, Alha. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. There's a phrase that's used in the UK that says, after the Lord Mayor's show, and having listened to Bea, a colleague and friend over many years, I realise it's a little bit like that. Thank you, Bea, for that excellent input. I just want to add a little bit about the broader issue of prevention. Can we prevent tobacco use? Can we intervene in that tobacco use, which Bea has really covered extremely well? But just to raise some general principles about the issue of prevention and smoking. My starting point is, I suppose, the questions we all have and that lay people have, and having listened to the seminar so far, I still get mystified. Why do people start, given all the evidence, the information, the knowledge, the risks, yet I still go to a hospital and see doctors and nurses that when they're outside in their own time still smoke, and I'm still confused. And why do people continue to smoke in spite of what we know about the risks? And I know we'd end up talking about addiction and how people are the problem that nicotine causes. So I think we then have to say, well, is there a way in which we can prevent the startup of people smoking? And can we be effective in that? And can we intervene, as I say, in the many very helpful inputs that Bea has made to address that issue? And if we are going to prevent, what are the things that we need to consider? Obviously, the thing about prevention is that it's a message of don't do it, stop doing it, don't start doing it. It's a very negative message in prevention. But I think I would like to consider prevention has two sides to its coin, not only about trying to get people to not do things. Perhaps we have to say there's a positive side of the prevention coin, that perhaps we need to see prevention not as stopping, but about promoting health and well-being, about how can we give a positive message that's concerned with health and healthy behavior. Can we achieve health and well-being generally and not just address the smoking issue? Because that's what we're concerned about broadly, is healthy behavior. And smoking is one aspect of that. To smoke is not an aspect of healthy behavior. So I would like to suggest that prevention as a positive do role as well as a negative don't message. At the same time, prevention has come a long way, I think, in the last 25 years. And I think what we've decided is that prevention is about health promotion as well as preventing things happening. But if we're going to do that prevention, what we need to address is, what are we trying to achieve? What are our objectives? And what are our objectives clear? Are they specific? Are they achievable? Because often our objectives we can put in terms of our ultimate objective is to stop people smoking, but there are often a lot of steps on the way to make that possible. And perhaps we have to break down our long-term objective into short-term steps in our objectives that we're trying to achieve in our prevention or health promotion journey. The other thing is that we need to look at the setting for our prevention and the influential areas where we can provide our prevention. We often talk about schools and focus on school as being the place for prevention. But I'm sure it is, because that's where we meet the young people, which are often the target for prevention. But there are other settings that are going to also have its contribution, or their contribution, and we can't leave it to any one setting or group. So what are we doing in our prevention work in the workplace? Where there are a lot of smokers, a lot of people may start and begin smoking. What about the family? How can we address it within the community? What can we do with the role of the media in helping us address the issue? And are there any things we can do within the environment that can get us to give a message about preventing smoking? And then there's a target group. Are we, in what we're doing and the objectives we're setting, are we addressing the message for everyone? Is it a universal prevention program we're looking at? Or are we targeting people that are at high risk or vulnerable, or those that are already beginning to use and experimentation? Are we, which age group and which level of use are we looking at? So we have to be clear about our target group, and we have to be clear about our objectives and what it is we're trying to achieve and where the input needs to take place. Who can provide it? Who are the providers, and what does influence people's healthy behavior, and in particular their smoking behavior? Well, of course, we've got the health professionals, we've got GPs, doctors, we've got teachers, we've got parents, community leaders, decision makers and opinion formers that can make a big influence on policy as well as practice. And so all of these groups have a role to play. And we have other big influences. Sometimes they can be good influences, sometimes they can be rather negative influences. So what are the influences that we get from industry, from the media, the message that they give in different ways, and often very mixed messages about smoking? We've got the influence of example. I always remember I began my life as a teacher, and we would be very good at telling young people they shouldn't smoke, and then went into the staff room, which was full of smoke. Thankfully, policies have changed, and that wouldn't be allowed nowadays, but certainly we often give mixed messages, and our examples is important. We need laws. We have a speed limit of 70 miles an hour in the UK. No one, I'm not saying no one, a lot of people don't obey that law, but my view is that at least if we've got a speed limit of 70, people will probably go no more than 80, and most will go below 70. So we need some laws to constrain people's behavior. And perhaps we need to be very realistic and look at costs, because finance plays a big issue in how we behave. And I just did a quick calculation of if I smoke 20 a day, knowing the price of cigarettes in the UK at the moment, that's going to cost me £3,300 a year. And that's a significant sum, and people often don't make those calculations and address that as another issue to look at. Another element of our work in prevention has to be connected to the question, but does it work? There have been a lot of people that says prevention doesn't work, but I think the evidence as we've built now, the prevention, the science, where a lot of research has gone on into how prevention should be done and what can be effective, and examples of effectiveness have been conducted. And I think the question that the issue needs to be addressed is the need for evaluation of the objectives with respect to the target group and setting that we've talked about. And we can show that prevention does work, but if it's done properly. And there's a lot of international support as being referred to that we can look at. There's done a lot of work in this area. Obviously WHO, which I strangely haven't put there, but if I think of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, the European Drug Observatory in Lisbon, the work of the quality standards in health behavior and substance use prevention, and various programs that are being developed, all about trying to promote and encourage an evidence-based approach to the work we can do in this area. And one of the things that we need, obviously, is programs that can help us, that we can use in the different settings for different target groups to reach different objectives. but we do need to focus on training, and we need to focus on training and identify who we need to train, and we need to identify what it is those trainers need to know in terms of the content. But I think equally important, if not more, it's how people train and how people learn that has to be addressed in the way we're going to help them be trainers with the respect to prevention. Some issues, I think, for smoking prevention. How far should we focus on smoking, and how far should we have this more generic approach to preventing substance use and promoting healthy behavior? We could list a whole range of health behaviors and say, well, if we could give each one of them the time they deserve, the reality is that people say, well, we haven't got the time, we haven't got the resources. And so perhaps if we put them together in the broader concept of how can we promote a health behavior, which will need specific content in respect to particular issues like smoking. But we know that information on its own isn't going to affect that behavior. So I think we need to consider whether in our smoking prevention, are we going to be realistic? Is there time and opportunity to focus on the wide range of health and behavior issues in certain settings, in the school, in the workplace, or do we need to keep putting them together under the issue of health promotion? And I think it, as I've said, I think we all accept that giving people information doesn't work. We can't say doctors and nurses don't have the information and yet still a number of them smoke. But perhaps it's about addressing the cause before it becomes the addiction. So is it about addressing the skills, the competencies, and the related issues that affect healthy behavior? Are we addressing those issues about how people can learn to assert themselves and find a path to health in different ways and different skills and competencies they need, and what goes on around them that helps them achieve that? So it needs relevant content, and we need to then look at how we can communicate this effectively to different groups to meet the different needs of the people that we're addressing. I just want to end by saying prevention can and does work, and this set of slides, it will be sent to you because there's a lot of words here, but it just gives some examples of what we have produced. One example here has been Unplugged, a program that was produced in Europe to address smoking and other health behaviors, and showed significant impact on young people and their uptake of smoking and even preventing uptake of smoking. And there are a range of relevant resources and help, if you look at these links that I've provided here, that can help you look at what can and does work. The other thing that we're in process of doing at ISSUP is building a prevention map, which we hope will provide access to prevention and training for people that want to look at this issue of healthy behavior and smoking behavior, and giving the different access points for different groups in different settings, in different needs, different targets and different objectives, to give people the wherewithal to sort of access the programs and training that is appropriate. And I would also draw your attention to the best practice portal that has been is online from the EMCDDA, the European Drug Prevention Observatory, and a lot of effort there is put into giving information on programs that have proved to be effective and evidence-based. So what are my key messages? I've kept it very broad, and I've tried to really, I think, convey that if we're going to address smoking and stop people smoking in the first place, or intervene early, that we do have to address the issue of health and not just tell people not to do it. But the key question, I think, for policymakers and people in decision-making positions is considering what we've heard about the effects and the costs, both human and economic, of smoking. Can we afford to not invest in prevention? We often see prevention and say it's important, and then we look at what's spent on it and found it's very little. Can we afford to not invest in prevention if we're going to actually have any impact on what is the most preventable behavior and cause of ill health and death and premature death? Can we look at prevention as two-sided coin of stopping people doing things, but also promoting them doing things in a positive and healthy way? And can we keep aware that we translate the phrase that we often use, prevention is better and cheaper than cure, and try and put that into practice? Thank you for listening. I hope you have some questions, and I hope that at least has started people thinking about the route to prevention. There's obviously a lot more we need to say and do, but I hope that this puts a whole context of the problem, how we address it, and how can we perhaps begin to address it from the point of view of promoting health and well-being of our populations and communities. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for your, as always, excellent input into our webinar. And now we realize that prevention efforts should be focused on the individuals and their surroundings. Also, we should take into account risk factors, developmental, social, and community-specific influences. Thanks once more. And I also would like to remind to our attendees of the webinar that you can send us your questions in the chat during the presentations, and please find the chat in the GoToWebinar control panel. And now we are moving on to our next speaker and continue to talk about tobacco smoking prevention. And I would like to introduce Natalia Zakhartsi from ISSUP Greece. Natalia graduated from the University of Lincolnshire and Humberside Hull campus and received her Bachelor of Science degree in social work. Since 2008, she is the Scientific Director of the Centers for the Prevention of Addictions and the Promotion of Psychosocial Health Series. It's in the municipality of Thessaloniki. In 2012, she received her Master of Science degree in Criminal Law and Addictions from the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. Natalia is a member of the board for ISSUP Greece. Dr. Zakhartsi, we very much appreciate your participation today, and over to you.
Thank you, Olha. I'm not a doctor, though. I wish. Thank you so much for this, and hello from me as well. We're going to carry on the prevention part. I'm going to present to you the handbook, the prevention handbook for children aged 9 to 12 years old, with the title Smoking Not For Us. It's a prevention program that was created by 6 prevention centers here in Greece, 4 in Thessaloniki, 1 in Xanthi, and 1 in Rhodope, which are prefectures of Greece. The Greek Ratox focal point of the EMCDDA, the UMHRI, the Organization Against Drugs, Theogenia Cancer Hospital here in Thessaloniki, in the health prefecture of Central Macedonia. This program is a holistic program, as it is not limited to an intervention and only to students, but it involves all school members and staff and parents also. The school is creating a smoke-free policy, and it involves parents that through 2 informative meetings, they complete activities at home very similar to the ones that their children are now doing at school. And also it has been evaluated in order to ensure the high quality and efficiency. The program includes 13 meetings over 2-hour meetings for the students. It's the 2 hours, consecutive hours during school, school program with the break in between. It is addressed to 4th, 5th, and 6th-year-old students of primary school. The teachers get training, a 15-hour training from the prevention workers in the prevention centers here in Greece, and 18-hour supervision while they're implementing the program. The parents get to informative meetings done by the teachers in collaboration with the prevention workers, and 6 home activities, as we said. And also there was an evaluation of the program, questionnaires for students that were in the implementation, and control groups also to teachers and parents. The reason we did this handbook was because of the research findings, basically. According to the HBSC and the World Health Organization, the research done in 2017 and 18 in 15-year-old smokers, the starting age is 13.7 years old for boys and 13 years old for girls. Also, the levels since the last research were the smoking levels increased, 2% for boys and 1% for girls at the age of 11, and 15% for both boys and girls at the age of 15, sorry. Also, across all ages, the 15% of boys and 13% of girls reporting that they had smoked cigarettes, and 7% of boys and girls smoked in the last 30 days. So we see that children of this age already have a relationship, a certain relationship with smoking. These are the Greek findings. I don't want to, they're very similar, as you can see, to the findings that we had on the last research of ISSUP in 2019. Across Greece and the 35 countries that took place, that are taking part at this research. The numbers are quite similar, and the 16-year-old children, we can see that they do have a significant number have a relationship to smoking. We used a specific theoretical background that is based on theories and theoretical models that highlight the role of social influence. As Jeff said before, and we all know now, that the prevention interventions are not effective when they're only based on information and self-awareness training. So in order for the handbook to, and for it to be effective, we use the evidence of the effectiveness of interactive interventions based on the approach of social influences. It is based on the social and personal skills model, which is aimed to shape the behaviors and promote the psychosocial health. We include experiential learning, so students can be very active in gaining their knowledge and enhancing their learning abilities, and that makes them even more responsible in order to take in action towards social change within their school. The techniques we use are dramatization, fairy tales and stories, discussion groups, theatrical games, team games, and artistic activities, amongst others. There are 4 stages in each section. The first stage is the initial distribution, where the teacher gets the pulse of the team, and he asks the children what preoccupied them since the last meeting, or what's stuck in their mind and they need to discuss even further. The second stage is the warming up, where we prepare the children through motor games, basically, and activities, and we sort of insert them to the main topic we're going to discuss in the specific workshop. The third stage is the main topic, followed by de-rolling, and the process mainly is by creating stories, masks, and dramatizing real or fictional stories, amongst others also. And the fourth stage is the final feedback that we get from the group, and we gradually move the members from focusing on the program to focusing on their daily activities. The school policy is a very important matter. We develop a school policy that will be followed, and we can have control over possible violations. It has to be agreed with all members taking part in designing the school policy. Design and distribution of informative leaflets to teachers and parents in events that we can communicate to the rest of the public the school policy we have in our school. We inform adults on the influence they have as role models about on their children's behaviors and choices, and the effects of secondary smoking on children and other adults that choose not to smoke. And I want to say here that according to researches recently, I cannot name them at the moment, I'm really sorry about that, but we insert now the term of environmental prevention, because it has been proven that having a school policy just in the school and then children having some other influences when they get out of school is not as effective as it should be. So we need environmental policies as well. The structure of the handbook about teachers is a 15-hour training and an 18-hour of supervision, as we said, while they implement the handbook. For the parents, we have 2 informative meetings and 6 activities that they do together with their children at home, and they're very, very similar to the ones that their children are doing. And this is because we want to connect the 2 parts, because parents obviously are very important for their children at this age. And in order for us to be able to promote the handbook, we did an evaluation. 1,623 students took part in the evaluation, and 57 that are in 57 schools. It was the intervention was done to students and parents, students and school policy, and the evaluation of effectiveness was a comparison of the intervention groups and control groups. We had control groups as well in order to see the difference. The evaluation before and after the implementation with pre and post tests, and we did a 1-year follow-up. We would like to do a 3-year follow-up and a 5-year follow-up, but we were very short on staff and resources. There was a questionnaire, a self-completed questionnaire that was given to the children before and after the implementation of the program. The questionnaire was formed by using questions from the EIB of the NCDDA and other questionnaires of the World Health Organization, SPAD, UDAP, etc. It was anonymous with a personal code that was generated by the students, and they were the only ones that could know this information as a whole. And it was a randomized control trial. The schools were picked also randomly, with some exceptions. We didn't include special schools and intercultural schools. We also did an evaluation of the process. We saw the level of adaptation, the level of participation, some assessments that the teachers were giving us back. In some emergency situations, we had to change and adapt the material because it wasn't working. And so there were some forms completed also at the end of each session. And I've got you here some key findings, the main parts of the evaluation. Just to begin, I would like to say that there were no significant differences between children on terms of demographic skills and knowledge and perceptions about smoking. There was an important enhancement of decision-making skills, of the peer pressure resistance skills, and children have found themselves to be more able to advocate for their own choices to stay away from smoking. There was also an important change on beliefs about occasional smoking and the dangers of occasional smoking and secondary smoking. There was an important change on the intentions and a significant strengthening of the motives that children have in order to choose a smoke-free life. And the best, well, for me at least, the best result was that even children that were already smoking, there was a significant decrease in their smoking in comparison with the control group, where children in the control groups that were smoking smoked a lot more. That's it from me. I hope I didn't take much time. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Natalie. We very much appreciate your participation. Your fascinating inputs into tobacco use prevention. And I have just one question. Can our participants download this guideline or the article about this model on the ISSUP website?
At the moment, no. We are trying with a team to evaluate it further in order to enhance its effectiveness. We are looking to do that because we want to put the handbook in the instrument bank, the European Instrument Bank. As soon as it is ready, we will be able to give it to you. But it is already available in English. We did translate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So now I move on to the presentation from Indonesia. And I would like to introduce Dr. Tribowo Ginting. a medical doctor, psychiatrist, head of psychiatric medical staff group in Persahabad General Hospital, Jakarta, addiction psychiatry consultant focused in addiction, especially smoking and nicotine addiction, and trained TOT smoking cessation counseling trainer. Dr. Trebowo is a member of International Society of Addiction Medicine and Indonesia Psychiatric Group of Addiction. Thank you, Dr. Trebowo. We welcome you.
Thank you, Olha. Today, my presentation is a smoking cessation program in Indonesia, the prevention and treatment processes. Okay, this is my disclosure, nothing to disclose from this presentation. This is my topic today about smoking cessation program, prevention and treatment processes. Okay, as we know that the distribution of world cigarettes consumption is dominated in Asia and Australia, about 57%. And Indonesia take 10% of the world smokers. And in Southeast Asia, Indonesia took place the first rank in Southeast Asia of the smokers. 10 countries with the most smokers, Indonesia took place in the 3rd place. And from the national smoker prevalence in 2013, there are 90 million people in Indonesia are smokers, about 36.3%, and the highest prevalence at age 25 till 64 years, about 38%, and 66% are male and 6.7% are female. How about the teenager smokers? In 2009 is 20.3%, 41% are male and 3.5% are female. In Indonesia, 70% smokers started to smoke at age 19 and 12.77% smokers started to smoke at elementary school, and around 12.3 cigarettes per day in 2013 in Indonesia. This is the nicotine addiction. We all know that addiction of nicotine caused by 4 factors. First is biological, second is behavior, social, and psychological. We all know that biological take part is nicotine and withdrawal effect and habit and environment. This is the nicotine addiction cycle. If someone smokes a cigarette, they will stimulate dopamine, which causes pleasure and relaxation. And in between cigarettes, nicotine level will decrease and will happen imbalance in chemical activity in brain, and pleasurable feeling wear off, withdrawal and craving start, urge to smoke, and someone will smoke a cigarette again. This is the side effect of nicotine and how to reduce the problem. The nicotine addiction, there are 2 effective approaches for smoking cessation. There's counseling and pharmacotherapy. The US Public Health Service in 2008 said that counseling and pharmacotherapy combination is more effective than single therapy. In Indonesia, to reduce the problem, we do preventive, curative, and rehabilitative program. We do medication and counseling, individual or group, and we try to build the program. The program start in hospital-based service and continue in community-based service. And we try to collaborate the hospital-based service and community-based service to establish the program and to reach smokers who want to quit. The prevention and treatment program in Indonesia for smoking cessation, we have target to socialize smoking cessation services in the community through Puskesmas. Puskesmas is the community health center in Indonesia. We do promotive, preventive, and curative, and to reach out the population who want to stop smoking and follow the program. We involving Puskesmas, healthcare staffs, teachers, and local health office. And then the trainers from hospital who have adopted the hospital integrated program, especially counseling program, try to make some TOT to community and to teacher or to health care staff. We socialize the module to the community by inviting healthcare staff, program leaders, and local health office. This is the promotive, curative, and rehabilitative program. Indonesia promotive program initiate regular health promotion program regarding smoking cessation in Puskesmas or community health center and collaborates with school and community. We do seminars and give brochures to them. And then train professional for counseling and supporting the needs of the patient who is joining the program. The curative program, Indonesia tried to collaborate with healthcare providers and patient family to provide adequate treatment for smoking cessation. And then try to establish system needed to support smoking cessation in their community. And then we provide and support the needs for smoking cessation, such as adequate drugs, capable professionals, and supporting hospital. And then the last rehabilitative program, try to recognize the complication from smoking in patient, provide care for complications related to smoking, and establish a good healthcare system, including referral when needed to treat those complications. This is a hospital integrated services program. As we said before that the program starts in hospital. So we try to establish the hospital integrated services program by involving medical doctor, nurses, and psychologists. Hospital integrated service program do non-pharmacotherapy, pharmacotherapy, and family support and social support. Non-pharmacotherapy, we do counseling, psychotherapy, like CBT, MET, and exercise program. Pharmacotherapy, we give varenicline, clonidine, and acetylcysteine, and we do family support and social support. And we do the program in hospital multidisciplinary. We take a 3 months program. The first month we do assessment, stage of change, counseling, psychological assessment, and pharmacotherapy. Same in second month, we do brief counseling, psychotherapy, pharmacotherapy, and hypnotherapy if needed, and group counseling. And the third month, we do brief counseling, psychotherapy, pharmacotherapy, hypnotherapy if needed, and group counseling. We do phone consultation too, and we do behavioral therapy and exercise program. So the hospital service programs duration 3 months, and we need active participation from patient and their family. We do initial assessment, individual counseling, group counseling, and pharmacotherapy, and the counseling conducted every 2 weeks, and group and family counseling conducted every month. This is the integrated services in community. We give a smoking cessation module training from head office to local health office, and then we do TOT training on trainers smoking cessation counseling for healthcare staff, program leaders, and teachers in community. And we do health promotion program to community. And then we integrate the service between clinics from cardiology clinic to smoking cessation clinic. And we do integrate services from teacher or school to Puskesmas or community healthcare services, and from Puskesmas to hospital by referral system. This is the integrated service. We do smoking cessation clinic in hospital, and we build the module, we build the program, and we try to establish the smoking cessation program in hospital first. And we do internal program by inviting a person or teacher or healthcare staff to hospital so they can learn about smoking cessation program and smoking cessation procedure in hospital. And then we try to do external program by visiting the community, and we build the module by collaboration with Ministry of Health. We create the module and we implement the module to community. We implement the module by use TOT, training on trainers, smoking cessation counseling, to healthcare staff in community, program leader in community, and teachers. So after we give TOT in regional areas, the person or the medical staff or the program leaders in community try to implement in Puskesmas, school, and do health promotion. And then they will give case report and program report. And if they found the patient or the people that need to referral, they will give the referral system to hospital. So after this presentation, the number of smokers in Indonesia increases every year, so it requires effort to reduce it. There are two approaches that can be done for smoking cessation in Indonesia: video counseling and pharmacology. Integrated service can be done in hospital, Puskesmas, or community healthcare services, and school with different methods to reduce this issue. Smoking cessation program can be done from primary healthcare to reach out to the individual needs it. It is expected that health officers can fully understand and apply the principle of smoking cessation counseling to decrease the number of cigarette consumption in community. Smoking cessation integrated services from hospital to Puskesmas or community and teachers and vice versa cannot stand alone, since they are interrelated to one another. Thank you. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your input and for giving your time, Dr. Sribal. And moving on, it is my honor to introduce our last speaker. It's Ms. Saima Asghar, social worker, director of ISSUP Pakistan National Chapter, executive director of New Life Rehab Center, Sialkot, Pakistan, for substance use disorder prevention, treatment, and rehabilitation. She conducted several awareness-raising sessions on health and led many substance use disorder prevention and treatment campaigns in educational institutes and communities. Thank you, Ms. Saima, for being with us. Over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Ms. Ola, for having me. It's also it's all my pleasure to be a part of this panel, and as well as to be a part of this important webinar. And thank you. And today my topic is yes. And today my topic is tobacco use current trends in Pakistan. And if I talk about the disclosure, no conflict of interests are. And here, my first slide is we are going to start with why address tobacco use. Pakistan is one of the largest tobacco country in the world. Currently in Pakistan, tobacco use in many forms like smoked tobacco and non-smoked tobacco forms. if we talk about the smoked tobacco forms, is basically included cigarettes, cigars, beers, and cattus as well. And if we talk about the non-smoked tobacco products, it's including like gutka, pan, and naswa as well. And for our audience, I would like to share a brief about the non-smoked tobaccos. First, I will talk about the gutka. Gutka is basically gutka is also called a battle quid. Is a chewing tobacco preparation, is and also used in Pakistan, India, and other Asian countries, including North America as well. While the most youngsters get easily addicted to it, women are also in the habit of chewing tobacco or even inhaling this snuff, which is even more harmful. And these harmful effects of gutka can also be cause of loss of appetite, unusual sleep pattern, and loss of concentration as well. And the second form is non-smoked tobacco form is naswar. Naswar is also called a nas or naswe, which is a moist powder tobacco snuff consumed mostly in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, Kazakhstan, Russia, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan as well. And it is smokeless tobacco, usually containing powdered tobacco, and it is used by sniff nasally or dipping, like pinching, like placing a pinch under the tongue or cheek where it is stored. And the third form of non-smoked tobacco form is pan. Pan is preparation of combining betel leaves with areca nuts, widely consumed throughout South Asia, Southeast Asia, and East Asia. It is chewed for its stimulant effects actually. After chewing, it is either spat or swallowed as well. The World Health Organization, WHO, considers that areca nuts carcinogenic, and many studies show that have linked it to cancers of the mouth, esophagus, and increase the risk of cardiovascular diseases as well. And if we see, the prevalence of smokeless chewable tobacco in Pakistan is over 10%. And here we are going to share some smoking trends of shisha. Shisha water pipe is basically the same thing, and it's a old form of hookah in Pakistan. Hookah is basically a single or multi-stemmed instrument for heating or vaporizing and then smoking either tobacco. Flavor tobacco are sometimes cannabis, hash, and in the past opium. The smoke is passed through a water basin, often glass-based, before inhalation. So, like cigarette, it contains nicotine, tar, carbon monoxide, and heavy metals such as arsenic. As cigarette smokers, such as heart and circulatory diseases, cancer, respiratory diseases, and problems during pregnancy. So it is also reported that prevalence of shisha in Pakistan to be 33%, which is a major public health issue in Pakistan due to tobacco use. And estimated 15 million people of age 15 plus consume tobacco every day. In Pakistan, more than 160,000 are killed by tobacco-caused diseases every year. Nearly 1 in every 5 adults, which is 19.1% in Pakistan, consumes some form of tobacco, and in every 10 is a cigarette smoker. And if we talk about its percentage, is 10.5%. Tobacco use in Pakistan. Let's move to the next slide. That is a survey on tobacco use in Pakistan were not numerous, and many of them covered limited areas of population groups. The National Health Survey on Pakistan, conducted in 1990s to 1994, categorized tobacco use as being common in Pakistan. 54% of men and 20% of women using tobacco in one form or another. Later on, the National Action Plan and for non-communicable diseases prevention, control, and health promotion in Pakistan. In the first round of surveillance measured the prevalence of smoking to be 33% in men and 4.7% in women. And if we talk about the prevalence reached 41.1% in men and 6.9% in women, with other forms of tobacco use included. Here I'm going to share some survey of global adult tobacco survey, which is took place in Pakistan in 2014. It revealed that 19.1% of adults were currently using tobacco products, 12.4% smoked tobacco, and 7.7% use smokeless tobaccos. 31.8% were tobacco users, and 22.2% were current tobacco smokers. 19.4% smoked cigarettes and 19.3% smoked manufactured cigarettes as well. Here, tobacco use among women. Here we discussed about the tobacco use among women in Pakistan. The number of female smokers in Pakistan tend to be very low when compared to men who smoke. But anti-smoking agencies and organizations say the numbers of female smokers is going to be increased day by day, which is an alarming situation for Pakistan because smoking trend increased day by day in teen, young adult girls and ladies as well. Several studies targeted specifically use among women, tobacco use among women. As a survey among women in an urban squatter settlements near Karachi, which used the Global Adult Tobacco Survey questionnaire, revealed that 42% were smokeless tobacco users and 18% were smokers. The report of Pakistan Demographic Health Survey 2012 to 2013 also mentioned that 1.3% of women were current smokers of cigarettes and 5.1% used for other forms of cigarettes as well. And now we are going to move the next slide, that is about prevalence of tobacco use among women. As we can see graph, any tobacco use among women declined on the average by 0.63% per year, and many tobacco smoking by any tobacco smoking by 0.25% per year. Data on smokeless tobacco use and cigarette was insufficient to access in trends. Estimated trends in Pakistan. Limited survey data suggest that overall smoking prevalence has been flat in Pakistan since the mid 1990s, while cigarette consumption has been rising. According to the international estimates, smoking prevalence in Pakistan decreased from about 36% for men and 6.5% for women. In 1980s to 1996, and 6.5% for women in 1980s to 1996, 28% among men, 28% among men, and 5.4% among women in 2012. Here I am going to share the prevalence of tobacco use among men. This slide shows the prevalence of tobacco use among men. The prevalence of any tobacco use shows on average decline of 0.96% per year, and the prevalence of smoked tobacco use declined by 0.43% per year. Most likely, the revealed downwards trends reflected the decrease in the traditional forms of tobacco use, but no data allow estimating the trends in the manufactured cigarettes use as well. Here I'm going to share once again that why address tobacco use. Basically, health professionals believe that economic cost of smoking in Pakistan amounts to about rupees 14,03,208 million. 8 million. This includes direct costs related to healthcare expenditures and direct costs related to loss of productivity due to early mortality and comorbidity. And according to the report, Pakistan can do more to make the proven tobacco control tools and work for its citizens' well-being as well. Here we can see the related percentages of active smokers in different studies that according to these studies estimates 9% adolescents, including male and females, were active smokers, and 33% general population is shisha smokers, and 36% male and 9% female were active smokers. And with reference to different occupation, 32.7% medical students, 37% doctors, and 35% paramedics are active smokers in Pakistan. Current trends in Pakistan. We just started a new slide about current trends and measures about tobacco control. Since the ratification of World Health Organization Framework Convention on Tobacco Control in 2004, Pakistan has taken various measures of tobacco control. A tobacco control cell was also established in Ministry of Health. Later on in 2007 was placed under the Ministry of Health Services, Regulations and Coordinations to reduce the prevalence of tobacco use in Pakistan. The Tobacco Control Cell facilitates Framework Convention on Tobacco Control implementation through various administrative, legislative, and coordination measures, which includes tobacco and tobacco product taxation, ban on tobacco product promotion and advertisement in print and electronic media, ban on smoking in workplaces and public service vehicles as well. It is also ban on cigarette sale to minors, and through anti-tobacco information campaigns, we can also prevent from smoking. And here I would also like to share the great initiative by the government of Pakistan that nowadays government and law enforcement agencies ban use of tobacco in public places, near school places, especially in school canteen owners is not authorized to keep the cigarette in his canteen, and it is illegal act as well. Cigarette production in Pakistan by quarters billion cigarettes. Now we have to. Now I'm going to show that two demographic slides actually about the cigarette production in Pakistan by quarter and yearly basis. If we see this slide that cigarette rate production in Pakistan by quarter billion cigarettes is since 2013 there was a significant decline in cigarette production. It was 19.1 billion cigarettes in first quarter of 2015. And the next slide is show the cigarette production of in Pakistan by during the years. This slide also show the production that here we can see the graph. Cigarette production was very high in 2008 to 2009 in Pakistan, which was 76%, and of course the consumption of also must be high there. Prevention of smoking. I also added few slides of prevention of smoking, but after listening the comprehensive presentations of our colleagues and fellows, especially Mr. Jeff and others, so I'm going to skip these slides and like to end my presentation to say prevention is better than cure. And thank you all. That's all from my side.
Thank you very much, Ms. Saima. It was an excellent presentation. And now we have time for some questions. And we would like to thank our participants for submitting questions. And our first question goes to Dr. Beatrice Carlini. Dr. Beatrice, yes. Nice.
Yeah.
So the question is, how would you know that you have tobacco addiction?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Most daily smokers are addicted to tobacco, but one of the things a clinician can do is to use a test. It's called Fargestrom test. That basically you can even use a short version of it that they are going to see how long it takes you to get the first cigarette after you wake up. And if you keep smoking even when you are sick, you know, that you will continue to smoke despite of, you know, having a terrible cold and fever and stuff. There are other measures too. For the person without a healthcare provider, a good way is to try to quit and see if they are successful. If they want to know, and they can assess how long they can take to you know, to go back without being able, without wanting. Mostly daily smokers are addicted. They have a very hard time. And if they are not addicted, that is not that important. Smoking kills. They're, you know, the tobacco doesn't care if you're addicted to it or not. If you use repeatedly, you're still increasing your risk of mortality and morbidity tremendously. So being addicted is not the main issue here.
Thank you very much for your reply. So now we got a question for Jeff Lee. Jeff, what methods include smoking prevention programs?
Sorry, what?
What methods include smoking prevention programs? I think it's about taxation, smoking, mass media, yes.
I think what matters in smoking prevention is that we see it as if we're going to talk about stopping people smoking, it has to start early. It has to start within the family. It has to start within the community. It has to continue at school. And it's about teaching people to respect their bodies and to respect their health, and that we need to give consistent messages and examples that reflect young people helping to learn how to respect themselves and respect others. And as I say, I think we have to look at as much as giving positive messages as well as negative messages. So I'm not sure if that answers the question. I think we have to realize that just media campaigns on their own aren't enough. It is about a joined up approach that involves all aspects of community and schools and families working together, and then we don't confuse messages. But as I say, it's a long-term career process that has to start early.
Thank you, Jeff. So this is a question for Natalie. From what age it is important to carry out preventive interventions in children?
So, well, as Jeff said, prevention starts with a very early age. We can start within the family since our children are born, basically. It is about changing our behaviors and our way of life in order to show our children how to make good choices, good health choices for themselves. And at school, it starts, well, in Greece here, we start from the kindergarten, even. We start with emotions, how we manage emotions, how we express our emotions, which is a very important aspect because, you know, we talk about emotions, but it's really difficult to distinguish some of them, like anger or rage or very difficult emotions. So we start from very early age. And we carry on until children are in third grade in high school, and even in the universities sometimes. Prevention doesn't stop. Prevention is forever. It's a way of life. It's about believing and being and doing prevention in all aspects of your life, not only the medical one, but also the psychological one. I don't know if that answered the question.
One more, Natalie. How can we reduce peer pressure for preventing smoking? Maybe to you and Jeff also, just appeared in the chat. So.
Jeff, do you want to go first? After me, okay. So peer pressure, it's not about reducing peer pressure and it's not only about smoking. Peer pressure is something that is applicable in all aspects of life of children, so and of adults basically. You know, peer pressure can be an adult thing as well. It's not only children. So there are skills that we it's self-efficacy. I'm trying to find the English words. I'm really sorry now. Self-efficacy, self-esteem, being able to express ourselves, being able to feel that we are supported and that we are, how do you say it? Just a minute, I'm so sorry. That we're accepted. So these are all skills that we need to give our children. It starts within the family. When a child feels respected and accepted within the home, and his parents are listening to the opinion and they're respecting his opinion, then this child most likely will be able to express the opinion and stand by his or her opinion in the school life also. But there are they are applicable in all addictions. It's not only smoking, it's everything basically. We need to give skill. This is prevention. Prevention is not focused in one substance. It's focused on strengthening children and young adults in order to not turn to addictions when they have a difficulty in their life, when they're facing difficulties or stressful life events. Oh, sorry.
Excellent, Natalie. I would go along with what you said. Could I just two things. One, I think we need to always, again, look at, we often call it negative peer pressure. There can be very positive peer pressure, and how can we build peer groups to help support and enable each other, not just see them as a negative impact. And the other thing is the whole issue of social norms, getting young people to their peers will often tell them everybody does it. We all smoke, most young people smoke, and the reality is that that's not true. We talk about all the figures we've given, as horrible as they are in Indonesia and Pakistan. The reality still is most people don't, and young people need to look at the norms that exist around them and say, why don't people smoke, and how can we keep that message? So get young people to look at social norms and get them to see peer pressure as something that can be very positive.
Thank you, Jeff. And now we have two questions for Dr. Tribova and Dr. Carlini. So how long does our body take to recover from negative effects of smoking, and does it take for around 4 or 5 years after quitting?
Negative effect caused by smoking. Actually, if we talk about withdrawal effect, the withdrawal effect of nicotine will be last in about 1 month, and the last things that still happen in somebody that try to stop smoking is a cognitive function and the appetite problem. But the negative effect, it will be last maybe, as Olha said, that 4 or 5 years maybe, because of the not only the nicotine but the other chemical in our body or in brain that happen, then still cause the negative effect in our body. That is my answer. Maybe Dr. Carlini?
Yeah, just to complement, as Jeff was also saying, about peer pressure being positive, the way I like to think is to think that the benefits of quitting start showing immediately. In few weeks, the person already have a better, gets back their sense of smell and taste that is impaired by smoking. With few months, they are breathing better. I mean, of course, the harms of being years and years, decades, sometimes in a very dangerous behavior, will take a long time to wear off. But I think mostly what is important is that you get the benefits right at the get-go, even if it's not the benefits, exactly on impact of mortality immediately. But you're gonna, people are gonna feel better immediately after. I want to take the opportunity, since I have, I'm talking now. I would like to complement something that Natalia and Jeff were talking. That is, never forget the role of the tobacco industry in this process. The tobacco industry is probably one of the most evil industries of all, and they have extremely good marketing strategies that makes kids think that yes, way more people use than people don't use, to inflate the norm, to use from social media to investing in movies and TV series to show smoking way more ingrained on the fabric of everyday life than actually is, to sabotage research, to turn around reality. So one of the important things in a society is to really fight for regulations on the tobacco industry in these areas, on marketing, on distribution, on responsibilities towards what they say. It's incredibly important. I know you guys agree. I just wanted to add to this because I think it's important to keep in mind.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. One more question for you. So what is the genetic role in smoking?
Yeah, I'm not really a good person to answer this. I would say there is a genetic role. It's hard to pinpoint because it's very well documented that kids from families that smoke will most likely smoke, but it's where is genetic, where is role modeling and learning behavior through, family ties is hard to know. I know there is a role, but in terms of prevention, treatment, and policies, we cannot really regulate genetics. So it's not the only cause. It probably has a cause. And I think it also has a role on people that smoke experiencing sooner or later the negative effects. I'm unfortunately not a good person to talk about that because it's not really my area. Maybe Dr. Tribo knows how to elaborate a little more on this.
Thank you.
Yeah, there are some genetic variant and contribution in smoking. We can see the genetic variant in dopaminergic system, opioid receptor, and bupropion metabolizing enzyme CYP2B6, and the nicotine metabolizing enzyme CYP2A6. Yeah, may play an important role in predicting a smoking cessation response to nicotine replacement therapy and bupropion treatment. So if we talk about this genetic variant, we can see that there are genetic involved in a smoking cessation program and smoking addiction or nicotine addiction in people. That's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Saima, are the electronic cigarettes popular in Pakistan? question for you.
Ms. Ola, if we talk about the e-cigarettes, it's not commonly used in Pakistan, but some people are living in a high society. They are mostly using e-cigarettes in Pakistan, but it is not commonly used in Pakistan.
Thank you. And how can addiction professional play a major role in Pakistan to reduce tobacco rate in the country?
Sorry, can you please?
What's the role of addiction professional in Pakistan in reduction tobacco tobacco consumption?
Well, it is it must be restricted in, and the policymakers also can play a major role. But if we talk about the health addiction professionals, we can identify the more coping skills to guide them that how can they prevent themselves from cigarette smokings, and they can also visit to the therapist if they want to quit the smoking. And I think most of our professionals are already doing and giving and sharing their information about this to prevent this society from smoking. So that's all.
Thank you. So I would like to thank everyone for participating in our joint webinar. Special thank you goes to ISSUP Pakistan for hosting this event and our speakers for their great contribution to this event. Also, I would like to say thank you to Olivia Woodrow for her continued technical support of today's event. And I would like to remind you that the webinar will be available online at ISSUP's YouTube channel and on our website. We also invite all of you to become ISSUP members if you are not already so. You can become a part of our group. Please join at www.issup.net. So thank you so much for your time and attendance with so much valuable and expert input. I hope you found the webinar of value to your work. Thank you again to our eminent contributors and looking forward to meeting you soon at the next ISSUP event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Olha. Goodbye. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Gimana nih?